if we give them how great thou art and put the emphasis on the art and show them and remind them that God is in it all, then we will see the tabernacle be the place that we return. We got this building from Monday through Sunday. People want to shout on Sunday alone.
Alone. Elevate, motivate, create new things, relevant. You're a blessing, cause your gifting is truly heaven sent, giving people hope for the future.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Artist Talk. Yes, we are back. And I'm so happy to be returning, and I'm happy to be returning with my next guest. He is a friend of the show, Kevin E. Taylor. He's interviewed some of our most legendary artists, Natalie Cole, Anita Baker, Tina Turner, Luther Vandross, and so many more. And I'm so excited to share him with you today. The last time he was here, he was Kevin E. Taylor, and this time he's Bishop Kevin E. Taylor. So please welcome back to Artist Talk, Kevin E. Taylor. Do you use the E when you're out and about, or is it just Kevin Taylor?
No, when I promise you, people orally call me Kevin E. Taylor. Good morning, Kevin E. Taylor.
I didn't know that.
Emphatic about it. Emphatic.
I did not know that. So everyone, welcome, Kevin E. Taylor. I wanted to have you back for many reasons. One, listen, we can never get enough of Kevin E. Taylor. So for that reason, but also, I never, in our last show, I don't think we talked about your book.
I don't think we did.
We talked about a lot of stuff, but we did not.
And since we last talked, there are two more.
What'd you say? Oh, Lord. But see, we didn't talk about your autobiography. I'm talking about.
No, we did not.
Never Too Much. So I definitely want to talk about that. I know.
I lost my mom in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the closing of a chapter. It felt like a shifting in the road. So I felt like I should landmark this. I should take the time to mark this moment. My mother and Natalie Cole, as my best friend said, were my two foundations. Mm-hmm. My mother, my spiritual, emotional, logistical foundation, right? And then Natalie, my creative, aspirational foundation. I was an 11-year-old boy in the projects of Southwest DC when I discovered Natalie Cole. And when I discovered her, she talked about beginning her musical career her junior year of college. That was the first time that my little brain, that also was very nerdy, that was also very in DC, but in the projects, but would walk to the museums. It's when I knew that I could do something with being smart. Mm-hmm. I knew what college meant enough to know it was after high school. I didn't know we could go there until she said it. So Mama said, be your best, do your best. And Natalie said, and then after that, be great. And so they guided me to the man who, worked for the DC government for 8.5 years and got his degree in English, Spanish, and accounting. Natalie guided me when I shifted and said, hey, they said, you're not going to get a promotion here for 10 years because you already started so early. So just wait. And I was like, wait. And so what do I do? And somebody said, quit. And then something said, then when I didn't know what to do, I thought I'd find a temp job. And the temp job took me into BET. And my mom was like, you sure you want to leave your good government job? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, all right. And Black parents wouldn't normally support that kind of a shit. But she was like, you sure? All right. Because she had seen me be sure before. I was the first one to go to college. Yeah. She had seen sure before. And so I buried Mother Louise Taylor and Natalie Marie Cole 364 days apart.
Wow.
And I think if I didn't write all of that story down, I might have lost my mind.
Yeah. So what did you mean when you say you discovered Natalie Cole? When you were 11, you said, and I discovered Natalie Cole.
So the nerd boy found, I used to, one of my chores was to throw the trash out. And I threw the trash out in, the big dumpster in the parking lot of the neighborhood, and found a Webster's dictionary, a pocket-sized one, on the ground, and picked it up and was like, "Ooh, a book! Why would somebody throw a book away?" And I was a little boy who was an old soul. So I could answer the phone and talk to the bill collectors. I answer the phone and say, "Good afternoon, Taylor residence." And Louis, that boy sound white. You know what I mean? And so it was just always, and that dictionary gave me more. It expanded the world. And so I remember one time I screamed at my brothers. I promise you I was 10 years old. And I said, "Y'all need to quiet down. You're being so recalcitrant." And my mother was in the other room. She said, "I don't know what that means, but I don't like it." She said, "Too grown a word for you." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And so I didn't know what to do with big words, right? And so one day in the sultry summer heat of DC, that can be crippling. My brothers were outside playing, and one of my brothers came in. He was like sweating like a piece of. "You can't go outside today," because he knew my asthma would have put me in the hospital. So I stayed in the house and I watched. I don't know if you remember. There was an old show out of Philadelphia called The Mike Douglas Show, and Mike Douglas had Robert Epstein. Robert Hedges, who played Epstein on Welcome Back, Kotter. Robert Mitchum, who was a movie actor, and singer Natalie Cole. And because my mother was such a fan of Nat King Cole, I assumed that Natalie Cole was his daughter.
Yes.
Which meant she was going to be black. And so
Right.
I was like, "What's this about?" And so I just wanted to see her, thinking I wouldn't be bored watching afternoon TV. She came out and sang "This Will Be." And I don't even know, "This Will Be" sound like a church song. And we had just in 74, 75 started going to church. So I'm trying to figure out how this, how is this on TV on a Wednesday afternoon? And then after, she sings the song, "How Can It Speak?" She already clicked my brain, Angela, because she says, "I'm so glad that you found me in time, and I'm so glad that he rectified my mind." And I said, "Rectified, rectify." So I went to my dictionary, recognize, corrected, brought back to its original state of being. I was like, "Whoa." And then she sat down to talk to Mike, and he talked about her when she started to sing. She said her junior year of college. I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" Then first he asked her about her father. Then she talked about singing in her junior year of college. Then he said, "Well, let's talk about the new album." She says, "My debut album is called Inseparable." Inseparable. That was a huge, Rectify was big. This was Titanic. It's the name of the album. She called it this. And I don't know about you, but y'all remember when you used to have to, my teacher said you couldn't use a word unless you could spell it, define it, or use it in its sentence. Spell it. I could see it on the album cover, right?
Yes.
Define it. Go to the dictionary. Bound together in an eternal bond, never separated. So I got the spelling, the definition. But how do you use it in a sentence? Bum, 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 bum. And she's saying inseparable, but like a flower to a tree, like words to a melody of love. There's no way we could break up, no words that can make us blow our thing, because we're just bum, 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 inseparable. And the skin in my brain peeled back so that God could crack my skull open. And it's like she got implanted. It shifted the axis of who I was going to become. Because when my mother came home, I said, "Mom, I'm going to college." That same day. "Mom, I'm going to college." She said, "Nice, baby." I'm 11. "That's nice, baby." And she said, "That's nice, baby," until I was 12, 13, 14, 15. And when I turned 16, my mother's like, "Baby, we need to talk because I don't have money for college." And I said, "I know, Mommy. That's why I'm smart." Like literally, I was like, "I know, Mama. I know what it costs. I know now. I've done some. It's going to cost money, but that's why I'm smart. So that there's things called scholarships." And after that, she was like, "Well, all right." So I discovered Natalie Cole because she ended up becoming not just this harbinger of these two big words, but she opened the portals of the world of Nat King Cole, right? So she could talk about Dinah Washington and Ella Fitzgerald and kind of Black history backwards. So I'm like, so the nerd me would end up in the library, looking up these historical figures that she knew, looking up, the University of Massachusetts where she graduated, and I'm in a project in D.C. I haven't been in some parts of D.C. And here this woman's from Los Angeles. She went to school in Massachusetts. I was like, so I don't have to go to college where I am. I don't have to. It's not 13th grade. I can go away. My world can get bigger. And so it was like every time she said something, Natalie Cole opened the world up bigger for me.
And then when did you get to meet her?
So the first time, and I think I talked, because there's kind of a whole chapter on that. The first time I met Natalie was in the midst of her drug epidemic. She was still dealing with, she hadn't gone into rehab yet, and she was the spokesperson for Posner Cosmetics. Posner, remember? And so they used to air doing Soul Train, and so she was doing an in-store appearance at GC Murphy's downtown DC. It's so nerdy, but it's my story. And because I hadn't had the money to go to Natalie Cole concerts, because we didn't have access to kind of artist memorabilia, I would take pictures from Jet. I'm working in the office already, so I would get those clear, I don't know what the little folders you put papers in and put them inside the notebook. I would put the Natalie
Sheet
Cole pictures,
protectors.
yeah, cut around them, use tape to put a safety pin on the back and staple and put it on my jacket. So I had various pictures of Natalie Cole in these homemade buttons. And so we get in the line to meet her, and people like, I'm 14, I'm young, 15, maybe 15, yeah, but I hadn't had a growth spurt, so I was a cute little nerdy boy, and people were like, look at Shawty, look at Shawty, look at Shawty. It was a little Natalie Cole. One of my buttons said Natalie Cole's #1 fan. And so when I got in the line, her manager said, would ask the person in front of you, what's your name? And I said, my name's Kevin. He said, my name's Kevin. I said, I know that, sir. And so was Natalie's first fiance, Kevin Nance from the Tramps. And he was like, okay. And he says, that button. So you're Natalie's #1. Okay. He says, Natalie, I'd like you to meet your #1 fan in front of all of these people. And then I walk up to her and she goes, so what's your name? I said, Kevin. She goes, hi, Kevin. So what was the name of the sixth song of my third, what was the name of the third song of my sixth album? I was like, I'm sorry, what? What was the name of the third song of my sixth album? And I said, and everybody was like, yeah, Shorty, Mr. #1 fan. What was it? And I was like, your ninth studio album, your ninth recorded album was your sixth recorded album was I Love You So. It's 6 if you don't count the live album, right? I said it included 9 tracks, and the third was It's Been You. That's my favorite. And she said, well, what is my son's name? I said, your son, Robert Adam Yancey, was born October 17, 1977 in Cedar. And everybody, both of your sisters were present, but your mother was late because she got stuck in a storm in Boston. She goes, oh, so you really are? I said, yes, ma'am. Everything you've ever done, I have. Every appearance you've ever made. She said, Kevin, we should do something with him. And that just kind of like, take the little young man. I got an account with Posner. They would send me the flyer, all of her posters. He would just kind of like, here's the latest press release. But there was never any direct contact while she was in her addiction. And then I was in college, in 1986, in college. And my best friend Celeste and I are at my at my P.O. box, checking my box. And I pulled an envelope out and I was like, the group, what is this? What is this? But I recognized the handwriting. I didn't know it, but I recognized it. And I flipped it open at the top because I knew I needed to open it now with a witness. And as I pulled it out, there was a purple piece of paper that said Natalie on the top. And I was like, oh. And I turned it around to my best friend. She's like, oh my God, come sit down first so you don't faint, right?
Yeah.
So I read the letter, which I still have to this day.
Wow.
And then that was 86, around 88, we then got in constant contact. And then Unforgettable happened, and she was playing at Radio City Music Hall. I came up to New York from DC. She, I waited by the car for her to assign my program. And then when I said, the guy said, what's your name? I said, I'm Kevin. And he said, this is for Kevin. And she went, and I could see her in the limo, and she opened the window and she said, hi. And, she, Unforgettable was on tour for 2 years. And so 93, I'm at BET now, I'm a producer now. And Natalie says, hey, because we jumped on the road so fast, we didn't get to do anything with BET. For the Unforgettable album, I'm going to BET first. And so Cindy Mahmoud, who was the director of music and entertainment programming at the time, said, go home, music researcher, and write questions for Natalie Cole. Angela, I thought it was the greatest day of
That was a no-brainer.
That was a no. Listen, I was like, that's what all this stuff I've been collecting over all these years.
All these years.
So I go to her, and I'm James Lipton down because I got individual questions on index card. And she goes, Natalie Cole was the first Black artist to be Best New Artist, the first one, 1976. Natalie was the first Black woman also to win Album of the Year. And so Natalie was studying to psychology in Germany. Yes, she was going to be a doctor before music, grabbed her. She goes, oh, this is wonderful. These are some things that we never know. She said, so I've decided who's doing the interview. And I was like, it's going to be Natalie Cole and Donnie Simpson. brown skin, light eyes. That's going to be pretty television. She
Yes.
said, and I went, for what? I said, for what? She said, I said, for what show? She said, I don't know, create it. And I said, that's not how this happens. She said, it's how it's going to happen for you. Because I don't know what it is, but you got something.
Mm.
And she said that, and then we just kept talking. And that landed on me, Angela. It laid right there as like a whisper on this shoulder. So Luther wanted every question I could possibly ask. And I was like, uh-oh. Everybody always say how celebrities could be mean. There's going to be a mean one. Let's go. Go to the Sony Club in New York, at the top of the Sony building. Luther comes in like a celebrity. He's Versace down and 8 people around him. Somebody finishing his makeup. Somebody holding the juice so he can sip it because he's parched. And I'm like, oh my God, please, Lord, please don't let him be me. Please don't let him be me. Please don't let him be me. The crowd breaks. And he goes, Luther Vandross. I said, he says, Luther Vandross. I said, and I'm Kevin Taylor. And he said, thank you for that. Because most of you know this, ma'am, as a celebrated woman, that people, when you say, I'm Angela, I know that. We've not met. Introduce yourself. So
Yes.
he introduced himself, and I introduced myself, and he liked it. And then I had on this cream and beige and wheat colored suit, cream shirt, and this kind of natural pair of sandals with a crisp girl. And he said, he leaned in and said, oh, those were Ferragamo. So look, I paid $18 for these sandals in a little store in Adams Morgan in DC. He said, you lie. I said, I did not. He said, you want to switch? To this day, my only regret in television is that I didn't switch shoes.
That's you.
Luther begat Lena Horne. Capitol Records was releasing a new project from Lena Horne. They were like, he can handle Miss Horne. We like that. Oh God, she walked in. Hello, darling. Da, 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 da. She sat, I asked her one question, and she said, and she ran through it, as you can in a what you think is a junket. And so she answered the question, covering almost the span of her career in this minute response. And I said, Miss Horne, this is going to be an hour-long series, not hour-long special on you, only you. So we're going to take our time and walk through your career. She said, young thing, what you know about my career? And I said, I promise you I'm going to show you. And I tell you, I've been with some real folks, some Mary J. Blige, some folk who talked to, nobody was realer than Lena Horne. She told some stories, and I was like, and so that begat Anita Baker. I interviewed Patti LaBelle at her home. We ended up crying because she was my sister's favorite singer, and my sister had died 1 month to the day. And I was like, my sister did this. My sister got me in this house. And when she started talking about her sister, we saw this not crying about our sisters that had to break, and she had to get her makeup redone. We cried so bad. And then the end of that week, I interviewed Stevie Wonder at the SIR studios in the middle of Manhattan. And then the tour de force for Lyrically Speaking, I flew to a town called Bremen, Germany, to see Tina Turner in concert. And I'm thinking, Tina Turner, she big. I ain't never heard of this Bremen. We got there, and we were at a mall on Sunday, and it was empty. I was like, what is this little town that she's in? Where's she playing? I thought Tina Turner was huge in Europe, but nobody's in this town. Why? Because everybody was in the football stadium where Tina Turner was performing. So when the limo got us to the stadium, I was like, oh my God. I'd never seen that many people.
Wow.
Because it was football stadium, it's festival stadium. So there's people all up here, but the football field is covered too with people.
Wow.
And then we flew the next morning to interview her in Copenhagen, Denmark. Can I share something with you?
Yes.
So before the show, Tina Turner we get taken backstage by Virgin. And she goes, hello, darling, and comes at me like this. I was like, well, what do you do with that? And so I grabbed her hands and she pulled me in. Hello, darling, welcome. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't believe. And then Kenny Moore, who was her piano player, was like, okay, BET is here. That's going to be good. And then Ebony was there to do a cover story. So it was the Black Night, right?
Yes.
So she did, they took us, they gave us, like gift bags, a t-shirt, and a program, and and put us under the audio shell. Everybody else is out in the open. We're under the audio shell so that the sound guy has covering if it rains and can hear a little better. And so she does her thing. And, she does this little part where she says, we're going to do something for you now. That when we go on stage, we're going to sit down and sing. And she does Undercover Agent for the Blues, Steamy Window, Help by the Beatles, and I Can't Stand the Rain. And when I tell you that Black woman sang. Next day, we are in Copenhagen, Denmark. I got my Tina Turner t-shirt on looking like a daggone groupie, but I don't care. It's Tina Turner. And before we get started, she said, darling, did you enjoy yourself last night? I said, yes, ma'am, I did. I was like, you can't, I was like, yes, ma'am. I mean, I'm saying you're behind her. She said, I know, I heard you. And I was like, I'm sorry, Miss Turner. There were about 80,000 people in a football stadium. There's no way you heard me. She said, oh, but all of them were little black boys from the church singing out. She said, you screamed out, sing that song, bitch. I was like, oh, Miss Turner, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She said, no, no, no. It reminded me of Nutbush. All that because, Natalie Cole made me understand music, right? So she made me pay attention to the liner notes. I was excited to meet Sylvia Rhone, the highest ranked woman in the music industry, as I was to meet any celebrity. I was like, you're Sylvia Rhone. In Vogue sang your name in their acceptance speech at the Billboard Awards. I mean,
Yeah.
so it was all of that kind of stuff.
You interviewed Anita Baker. What do you think of all the news about Auntie Anita, kind of losing it a little bit?
It's so honestly, it's so odd that you would bring that up because that stuff is hard to hear because I can't say that she was the most nope, the nicest to me in the industry person, right, was Anita Baker because I had no relationship with her. When I interviewed Anita Baker, she was very particular when she came into the room. She had to go downstairs to have a cup of coffee while they fixed something. But it's because she told the guys that she wanted amber light, amber gel on the lights, and they put melon. And I said, did Miss Baker make that request? And the guy basically said, I thought it was the amber. I was wrong. Because, when it blasts out under the heat, it came yellow orange instead of brownish orange, right? So
Yeah.
by the time she sat down, I was right behind her. I said, it is fixed. And she said, I thank you. I was hoping you were right behind me. And we had a little talk while they were just judging everything. And I talked to her about uh, the combativeness of black women in the industry getting pit against each other like no other. I was like, we're going to talk about you, getting the tape for Love Should Have Brought You Home last night, and Tony Braxton was singing on it, and you said to the label, I don't know who that girl is, but that's already her song. I said, you could have taken what you knew was a hit and taken it from her. But she said it was her song. I said, but see, they don't hear that part. They just hear the Tony sound like Anita. I bet Anita jealous. Not Anita make it happen. And I said, it pitted Natalie was the new Aretha, Tony was the new Anita, Mariah was the new Whitney, Vesta was the new Shaka. They don't pit anybody against each other like black women. She said, nobody's ever said that out loud. I like you for that. And so we talked, and then we just had a really good talk because oddly, that Anita Baker One Night of Rapture album, that was her first video, was recorded at Constitution Hall in DC, and I was in that crowd. But then she is preparing to leave Elektra. At this time, Angela, I have left BET. I'm in New Brunswick, New Jersey, pastoring. I'm on my way into Best Buy to buy a couple of CDs. And my phone rings, and it's Blue Note, the label she's going to. Kevin Taylor, yes. Anita Baker's looking for you. So I just wanted to make sure we had the correct number. The line beeps, and it's my friend from Virgin. Blue Note is a subsidiary of Virgin. My friend Lionel Rodner. Hey, Kevin. Hey, I thought this was your number. So Anita's new album is with us, and we need you. Anita's looking for you because she wants you to write the bio. Can you be in New York City tomorrow? Yeah, I'm only in Jersey. Then her booker called, her booking agent, Jody Winnick, I think his name was, and he called. I was like, oh my God, Anita Baker called for me. Wow. They put us in this room, and she said, when it was time to leave Elektra, they said, we're only going to do one interview. We're calling it's a canned feature. You do one feature, and it will go out to everyone and all of the press outlets, and you can use any journalist you want. They said you can get Kevin, you can get Nelson George from Billboard. You can get Kevin Powell from Vibe Magazine. They're like, this is a big deal. You can get anybody you want. She said, I can get anybody who I want. Get Kevin Taylor from BET. And I was like, so it is that. I was in Los Angeles once, and I went to see her and went backstage and didn't have any press credentials. I'm in LA. Sylvia Rhone called and said, you're going with me to see Anita. We go backstage. Sylvia separates from me. And I'm like, oh no. I'm gonna get some egg in my face. You're an imposter. What are you doing back here? Anita Baker came and grabbed me by the hand. They're my favorite journalists. And I was like, oh my God, how is this my life? So let me tell you the funny of like Anita. I went to see Natalie Cole once at a little club in Georgetown when she was doing the show Big Break. So she was doing little small gigs around the country just because she had 2 platinum albums in a row. She could have done a world tour, but she was doing small gigs because she had this show coming, Big Break, which is where Tanya Blanc got discovered, which is where Eric Benet got discovered, and the show that R. Kelly won. Right? So the show was quite successful. Then came Unforgettable. But at this show, Natalie, I got there as Natalie was leaving rehearsal, and then she did the show. And then during the show, there was a sound glitch. And Natalie Cole said in one sentence everything that people think about Anita Baker. Natalie said, "We had a rehearsal. I know because I was there. Don't make me have an Anita Baker up in here." But think about it. That small, petite woman with this wonderful husky alto knows her voice, knows her instrument, knows her sound, and as a petite woman is probably often disrespected by men in the building who forget that everybody working tonight is working because of her.
Right.
And I think we forget that. I think we forget that when a dude thinks it's his turn to shoot his shot. She prettied up, look at the butt on her, and then they come at him a certain way when they suck their teeth, kind of like you don't know what you're talking about with the EQ. And she's like, I know this voice, and I know I've been on tour for a year and a half. I know my levels.
Yeah.
So, I know she went through the stuff with her masters. I know she went through a divorce. I know that there were several people who are of significance that we thought to her who have not had any direct contact with her. But I also know what it's like to get a phone call unsolicited from Anita Baker on a Sunday afternoon after church and talking to her all the way from New Brunswick, New Jersey, into Harlem, into my best friend's apartment while he cooks. This is about 2 hours. And then he's like, try this. And I was like, oh my God. And he had made a pork chop about an inch and a half thick, cut it in half, and stuffed it with cornbread and oyster stuffing. It was the most delirious thing I'd ever tasted. And I was like, oh my God, what was that? He started talking, and she said, wait, what is he saying? And I put him on the phone. And he gives her the recipe. And he's like, get the cut the dog. Blah, blah, blah. And while he's giving the recipe, he goes, no, it's. I say, finish the damn recipe. And so he gives her, she said, all right, well, now I got to go because now I got to go grocery shopping because I think that's what I'm making for dinner tonight. So we hang up and he goes, does this happen to you often? I said, it does not. He said, but that can't be Anita Baker because she wasn't talking about music. I said, why would she call me on a Sunday afternoon to talk about work? That's our job.
Yeah.
Right? But my brain is still going, well, Anita Baker called me on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I hold on to while people are trying to disparage her name. She sounds amazing and she's been kind to me. So.
And I met her once and she was so kind to me. So I want to talk to you also about transitions because everything you've said to me, I've watched you. I've studied you. You talk about the words Natalie Cole said, and you went to look them up. I read where you had a little teeny dictionary, and so you have been so many things. You have been a journalist. You've been a talk show host. You've been an author, a producer, a pastor, and a philanthropist.
I've run a women and children's shelter. I've been a director of LGBTQ service. I've been a director of development. Yep.
Yeah, a community activist. So many things. You came here from a board meeting, and I bet you that didn't have nothing to do with your church. So I'm saying, what I'm saying is, many times artists wrestle. All people do, but especially artists wrestle with transitions because somehow it's an indication that they gave up, or it's an indication that things weren't going well and they stopped too soon, because everybody says if you stop too soon, that's when you're blessing.
Yeah.
And all of that. But sometimes transitioning doesn't mean giving up. Sometimes God shows you a purpose and then you fulfill it and he gives you something else to do. So what do you say about transition?
So it's beautiful that you asked that as I sit in my office space in my job, right? And yet that's a Luther Vandross poster sign. Yet that is a picture of me interviewing Stevie Wonder. That is a picture of me interviewing Christopher Williams. And you know why? Because young people at my job, when I was in our downtown facility, would come into my office and go, Mr. Kevin, why did that woman look like Whitney Houston? I said, not Whitney Houston, that's Tina Turner. What? And that lady looked like Patti LaBelle. That is Patti LaBelle. And then they would be, and then one of the young people came and said, Mr. Kevin, I Googled you. What are you doing here? I was like, because I've done that. See that? Those things I've already been able to do. I'm trying to figure out now how I use the me that I am to help you. Natalie Cole asked me once, and this might answer it. How are you so able to be who you are as you are? I.e., how are you an openly black gay man and an openly, affirming pastor? I said, Natalie, God keeps on doing great things for me. God knows it's me. Right? So to be the vessel that somebody goes, you can't be this. I was like, I am. I don't understand I did it. Right? So for somebody to be able to see and say, and being able to be in this seat and run a women's shelter, but I walk Eva Marcel into the women's shelter one day, and the women are like, what is she doing here? She's my best friend. At church, Monifa shows up with her wife Therese, and they're like, what is she doing there? I was like, getting a word from the Lord. For me, the whole idea of transition, this is so good. I'm so glad you did this evening, is realizing that so many of us get out of whack because we think we're looking for balance instead of working in harmony. And I realize how God has been using each of the parts of me to do the same work, to show somebody something new. The thing that I hear at a women's shelter is the same thing I've heard from celebrities in conversation. The same thing I've heard from people is the same thing I've heard from somebody who got church hurt and didn't think they'd ever step back in it again. I never thought about it like that.
Wow.
To hear that makes me, it literally has taken me out of the room in tears. To know that people have lived full lives and God can give me something that gives a grown adult person the wherewithal to say, I never thought about it like that. But somebody had to give me harmony. They were like, you're going to kill yourself trying to balance this all out. Because if everything's over here, that means you're just going to take as much to balance it out. That's why people spend all that money they get celebrity. That's why people do all that traveling and try to showboat, because so much is asked of them here that they think the balance is to give themselves this much here. You need harmony. So that you work and you rest, so that you push and then you feed your soul. You don't do it by gluttony. You're like, ooh, I haven't eaten today. But so you don't stop and go, now let me gorge. You go, now let me put these 4 chicken wings in the rotisserie and then make a salad and then, make a sweet potato. Because you're feeding the same machine, not fighting the deprivation of not eating with the gorging of gluttony.
Yes.
And so when I found harmony, I could see that this work is as much about the woman who wants to be a chef, but her situation turns she and her children around, and she doesn't have the opportunity because she's in the shelter. And I can go to the executive director and say, we have a kitchen in our executive office. Do you think we could let Miss So-and-so work on her culinary skills? And so she was like, well, I bake. And so bake cookies for the shelter. But you get to use the kitchen. You get to do the work. That's the same thing as the first time I was in a Bible study in a group during our convocation. And we went into the story of Adam and Eve. And I read, and Eve ate of the apple, and gave some to the man who was with her, and watched women burst into tears who were like, I'd never heard that Adam was with Eve when she ate the apple. They always disparage women, talk about women, rebuke women. It's right there in the scripture. Somebody just stopped at the comma, right? Yeah. So that God gave me the audacity to come out and then keep coming. I can just keep coming. Just keep coming. Wear that suit, wear that shirt to work. So I come to work and they be like, we just checking to see what you wearing today. Because our capacity for audacity is so much bigger than our circumstance will encourage us to be, right? The ground ain't gonna never tell you to fly.
Oh!
Right? And so when you realize that people who talk about you want you to stay at their level because they realize you have the capacity to do something else. They figure if I can tie enough strings to you, you won't move. Because if you move, why can't I move? If you fly, why can't I fly? When I discovered in 2024, this ain't no long, I discovered this year that peacocks can in fact fly. They just prefer to stay grounded because it is easier to get food on the ground and to form partnerships. However, they fly generally for 2 reasons: to get away from danger and to go to new levels.
Wow.
I was like, okay, God said it's time to fly, Pico.
So everybody need to fly for at least 2 weeks.
That part. Everybody need to fly to get away from danger. If somebody called you a chicken head or a pigeon head, both of them can fly.
Yes,
They're
yes,
talking about you because they're trying to get you to stay where they are as opposed to figuring out who you are.
yes. So when we last spoke, it was live. We were in the pandemic. We had a wonderful conversation.
We do.
Oh my God, we had such a great conversation. But I would say that was about maybe 4 years ago. Maybe it was 2020, 2021 at the most. 3 to 4 years ago. What's new?
So since then, my beautiful son. So I adopted JaVale Kwame Taylor when he was unofficially when he was 14, officially when he was 18, but he's been my son since the day we met. And JaVale had a daughter who I spent the whole weekend with. So the first time he swam in the lady pond, he gave birth to a child. I said, figure out how to use it, or I'm going to cut it off. So he's got a 17-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, right? So having him be in his 30s and be a father and see the work and the wonder of that is one thing. But when I tell you, like the big news is so he's got Jaden who's 17, Grayson who is 3, and Adina who is going to turn 2 in June. When I tell you that she came forth from her mother looking like my mother, and I don't mean kinda, I mean the woman was handed the baby and then handed it to her son who was like, her husband who was like, and I was like, what? They handed me the baby, and I was like. And the older she gets, the more she becomes my mother. She touches my face in the same spot my mama does. She laughs, she grimaces the same way. She's my mother's face is on this child. I swear to you, I'm gonna send you the picture so you can put it up for people. It is uncanny that the first girl to come into my family since my mother died is my mother. And people are like, well, he's your son. He looks like you. I was like, I know. My son is adopted.
Mm-hmm.
This is a love line. This ain't a bloodline, right? And so something in the Natalie is not here, and the mama's not here, and then losing my best friend of 30 years. David and I spent 2 weeks in August in Houston, Texas, where we unpacked his new home, and I met his new partner. I flew back to Houston in September to go to at the NRG Arena to see Beyonce. In November, he was gone. And so now everything I've ever, so many of the things, because Eva's still here, Celeste's still here. So many of the things that I've held close to anchoring me are gone. And so now Eva, who has been my best, we were instant best friends, but we met at the same time we met, right? That I got you and Eva, that there's this elevation of spirit. As I turned 60 September 4th, same day as Beyonce's birthday. There's something moving that makes me feel more vibrant, more alive, more aware, more alert, more audacious headed towards 60 than I was headed toward 30.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that things were possible at 30 for that fat black asthmatic gay nerve in the process. Now I know God. I don't believe in God. I believe God.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And so what's new is everything. What's new is the possibility of, the church after all of these years finally moving into our own building, because I'm good with the fact that I will build a building that somebody else will leave when I'm gone. I'm good with the fact that somebody sees me and I'm good that I look like I don't look like what I've been through. I'm good with the fact that young people don't think, when young black people don't think you this age, because young people think everybody old.
Yes.
And so when I say, well, Miss Kevin, you old, but you ain't that old. You 42, 43. And I was like, what? No. I was like, I'm 60 this year. No, that's impossible. But it's not.
But it's not.
All things in God, all things are possible. So what's new, right? What's new is like, I haven't written a new book. I haven't written a new book in 2 years but I've written 5 books because they just were my stories.
Mm-hmm.
My mentor is a publicist. He's like, I got somebody you need to help get this story done. I got somebody else that I'm 5 books in helping other people tell their story, because the last book I wrote was called Self-ish, Get Full of Yourself Without Guilt. That's what came out of the pandemic. Let me tell y'all something. The last time I saw Angela and Scott, we were together at Broadway inspiration voice, Broadway inspirational voices. The Christmas concert, and Angela gets on stage. She has a moment where she speaks to the people because she's one of the Broadway inspirational voices. And I was like, Angela's here, Scott's here. So afterwards, we're family, and I just want to hug my family. And I'm like, oh my God, she's here, because we do all of this all the time, but we both in Jersey, and I still hadn't seen her, right? And so here we are at this Christmas concert where Jesus' name has been lifted, and I go to hug my family, and what some of y'all don't know, I preached when we met. It was at a cultural and arts festival in Puerto Rico, where Angela got a Vanguard Award, and they asked me to speak at the gospel brunch. They said to speak, and I was like, I'm a preacher. It's Sunday. I'm going to preach. And we preached about get in the fire. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. If you're going to live in the audacity of God, your assignment is to get in the fire, because God will meet you there. When I came down the stairs after preaching, I'm shaking. It was just because it was one of those things you ain't have time for setup. It was 15 minutes of boom, hit it and quit. As I came down these 4 stairs from the stage, Angela and Scott were waiting for me like they were family, holding each other and but holding space for me to fold me in. And I feel like I'm sweaty and hot and wet, and they just folded me in. And I felt like, who are these two? And thank you, God, right? So when I say that to say, when I got up from the concert and turned down the aisle and went toward 2 of them, they were together the same way. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And when I tell you that Scott Whitehurst poured into me like a hose in a dry land, that man irrigated some spaces in me that were famished.
Yeah. He'll do that.
Afterwards, we walked to the car, and I sat in my car for a good 10 minutes and just thanked God. I just did.
When you decided to go into ministry, did you have Bishop in mind?
Let me tell you something. First of all, I laughed to be here because I remember being at a place where I don't know when it was that I knew I would pastor, because my mother used to say, God had to bring you into ministry, because if you had been a lawyer, there would be a whole lot of people in jail. Right? Yeah. My mama knew about me and my words and my capacity to argue and debate.
Yeah.
And so I knew that. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be later in life, because I always thought a preacher had to. I always thought you had to have some hot and some grit to your voice. And so I'm in a space where, you've been there, where I'm more likely to make people laugh, but not comedically, just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Oh, he said that. You know what I mean? And so I've been working with that. But here's the thing. When I first none of it has been of my doing. When I walked into this church in DC, Inner Light Unity Fellowship Church, where Bishop Quabbin Radio Cheeks is still my pastoral father. When he started his church, I knew I wanted to follow him, because I stood on a street corner for 2 hours while he talked to me with 8 bags of groceries in my hand. Hands cramped, but he was pouring. And so when he said, come, I came. And then he talked about 3 months in about a spiritual council. It wasn't going to be a deacon board. It was just going to be a spiritual council of people who want to do the work. And I was like, and I promise you, it felt like God said, son, you better put that letter in today. And I was like, Lord, are you threatening me? I'm just saying, it was that cool. And so I wrote my letter of intent on the back of the church program that day. So it felt like that was how I went from layperson to the diaconate. 2 years later, he said, who's interested in moving higher? Because now he's got an assemblage of folk who come together. And I was like, no, I'm good at deacon. I didn't really want to do church stuff anyway. I just wanted to be of service. And Patti LaBelle did that Going Home to Gospel special for PBS. And she said, she sang that song, God Cares for You. Why don't you trust God? Trust him over and over again. And at one point, she kicked the shoe off. That shoe kicked through the TV, hit me upside the head. When I came to, I was in my grass, in my yard, in my home in Capitol Hill, DC, prostrate. I was like, okay. And I came out the grass about 10:40 and called my pastor. And I said, I just want to tell you that I want to move forward in ministry. He said, I knew you were going to call me tonight. And I was like, so that's me from deacon to minister. I'm in New York, in Newark, just serving. I'm a minister. Yeah, I'm here to be of service. The Archbishop comes and calls me the next day and says, son, the Lord has commissioned to work in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I was like, okay. He's asking me to help somebody begin the church. And he said, he's called you to lead it. And I was like, minister. I just got ordained minister. They had to bring me back to convocation the same year to elevate me to reverend so I could have all the rights and privileges of the pastor. The Archbishop was appointing new folk at our national meeting and called forward the next two bishops, and then said, and God has called forward, so and so to serve in the role of elder. And I was like, okay. He said, then he said to do it 2 by 2. So I'm going to call for, and he called my name, and I screamed like a white girl at a Beatles concert. And I was like, oh. And everybody was like, well, they talked to us about our elevations. Didn't they talk to you? No, he did it on the spot. So none of those places had I had a direct engagement in my elevation. For Bishop, I talked. For Bishop, I said, if I'm going to do all of these things and find a harmony in it, I need to step forward. So I talked to the house. I talked to our prelate about my intention to move forward. And I'm so glad you asked this, because God said, Kevin, what I want you to do is to reimagine Bishop. I want you to talk to people about the stuff that they've forgotten, because I feel like, and I'm so glad to have this conversation on Artist Talk, so many creatives have moved away from, so many things, saying I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, but they have no spiritual practice either. And then something happens and they have no covering. There are people who say that and I'm not religious, I don't think that, but they slide into my DMs for prayer. Right? I got more people slide into DM for prayer. I was like, what are you ashamed about? And so what God said to me, is this. You've got to talk to people so that they understand I brought each of them here on purpose with a purpose. And too many people are sitting as members in somebody's church when they're supposed to be the leader of a movement. They're supposed to be the pastor of the work that they've been called to do. And the bishop is the pastor's pastor. So I didn't have it in mind, but God did. That's why God, you know why I feel like it? Because somebody said, you don't understand, I run a shelter. You don't know nothing about that for 5 years. Let me take you to the servant's house. You don't understand, blah, blah, blah. I did that for 12 years. I did. And so to be able to have this resume that sits in this, to be able to have a way with words that writes books and grants. Yeah. That's only God. That's only God, sis. So did I have it in mind? No, but God did when that little boy could negotiate with bill collectors at 11 and 12 in the project.
Everything you did led you to this moment. Everything you've done led you to this moment.
God has not wasted a single breath, a single moment, a single opportunity. There's a scripture that says, church folk like to say that thing that says, if I had 10,000 tongues, it wouldn't be enough to say thank you, Lord. And I went investigating the scripture. What the scripture says is, I would rather have 5 intelligible words to share with the church than speak 10,000 foreign tongues. And I was like, what? If I could only speak 5 words, what would they be? God said, go ahead. Thank you, Lord, for everything. Everything. Not a thing that I've been through. Not a place. Not the 4 months not the 3 months in the hospital with asthma, bronchitis, and pneumonia. Not the being on the plane with Aaliyah, and then 18 days later being on a plane on 9/11, and the plane that crashed in the Tower 2 I was supposed to be on. Not a thing. Not a thing. Not a thing. Not a thing. Not a thing that I've endured has not been able to pour back into somebody else, something else, somewhere else. The fact that God keeps on doing great things for me, and God knows it's me. I'm the preacher that if you see me in the supermarket and say, Pastor, how you doing? If you could pray for me, all right. All right. I mean, what you think? It's Monday night. I'm supposed to wait till Sunday till you? No. You say pray. And I'm telling you, that kind of ferociousness about who God is and what God can do with me, for me, in me, has made people join in the prayer line who ain't know nothing about it. At the Walgreens, the lady says, would you pray for me? And then the woman behind the counter, and then the woman from the photo area says, wait, hold on. Next thing we got 6, 7 people in the prayer circle. And people say to me when they see me on the street, hey, Pastor, I know you don't remember me. You're Diane's sister. I married y'all mother 2 years ago. I'm going to forget you. But I know what it feels like to people who feel forgotten. And so they think this man who runs the church, who know these famous people, forgot all about them. And God made that crazy boy with that Natalie Cole memory that remembers everything be able to see somebody and they go, you don't remember me. Hi, Scott. How'd you remember my name? It's your name. But that's that Rolodex God installed in my brain that can go, Angela Robinson Whitehurst. 2017.
So what we gonna do about the church now? Are we feeling? We both grew up in the church. We both had encounters. I will never trade any of that in. It definitely is why I'm here and
Yes,
why I'm doing what I'm doing.
yes, yes,
But
yes.
have we lost our way? And if so, I, I I was gonna say honestly, I was gonna ask you how do we get it back? But I think in everything you said prior to my question, you really sort of explained how we get it back. We pray in Walgreens. We remember people's names. We do all those things. The person who's the bishop has to be someone who really wants to do
That
what
part.
our beautiful who did you say did it? Tina Turner. They have to.
Come on in.
Yes,
Come
yes.
on in.
Come
You
on
know, and the thing I always say to people when she did that, my brain said, "What do you do with that? What do you do with somebody speaking to you in the street and saying, pouring into you, saying, go ahead and write the book you're supposed to be writing? When am I going to see you say? You told me you were working on outfits, but it's hard to start. One of the things that I'm trying to make a rhythm for people is support is a verb. If your friend is in concert, one of my friends said, "I hope you'll come." I've already bought my tickets, but
Well, I remember when the arts, I'm old enough to remember when the arts started to be embraced in the church. I am old enough to remember when it was shunned. And I remember as a dancer being invited, that particular pastor will always be near and dear to me, being invited to dance at church. It was before all the praise teams now. And I remember thinking, this is big. This is something great that this particular pastor was doing. Opening up, we wrote dramas, we wrote plays, we did all of this. And I can't help but think that we need an arts renewal
yeah,
in the church. I think we've gotten to where we do the same dance movements, not that they're not beautiful. They are. We sing the same way. Nobody's allowing God to create a new thing through them. And I believe that that new thing will change the culture of the
and
church.
what's crazy though? What's crazy? Like you just said that. What are we gonna call it? How great thou art, right?
Yeah.
How great thou art. Because the beauty of
Wow, Kevin Taylor.
the beauty of what you just talked about is what Bobby Jones did. Bobby Jones gave us Kirk Franklin. Bobby Jones gave us K and K Mine. Bobby Jones, as the old and traditional people thought he was the innovator who expanded gospel music. And
He
without
did.
Bobby Jones on TV, people forgot that Kirk Franklin almost got cussed out at church. That the Clark sisters did too. That Tremaine and Fall Down did too. Like the church was always kind of, we can't grow, we can't grow, we can't grow. And then Leandre Johnson shows up on Sunday best in flip flops and white socks and destroys the temple. Like the only thing we can do is to do it. And so if we give them how great thou art and put the emphasis on the art and show them and remind them that God is in it all, then we will see the tabernacle be the place that we return. We got this building from Monday through Sunday. People want to shout on Sunday alone. But
Alone.
I serve a God who has caused me to pull over on a Tuesday night. I serve a God who has met me in the shower and laid me out in the tub. And we got to stop acting like we didn't have grandmamas who shuck peas and moan
Ask
hymns.
you, I'm gonna give you one word, and I want you to tell me who you're digging and why. Just one word. Broadway.
Melody Betts, I'm telling you, I was on the train coming home and found her on Instagram. And I was like, listen, I don't know. I know you probably heard Melody Betts. I'm telling you, I could show you the screenshot. That
Okay.
that that woman.
Music.
Hmm. Maxwell. I'm really looking forward to this serenade tour with him and Jasmine Sullivan. I feel like they're gonna set some ambiance loose in that space that I haven't seen since like
Oh, we've
Sade
missed
and
that.
Madison Square Garden, and then she turned a 15,000 seater into like a small jazz club.
That's gonna
Maxwell.
be good.
That's
And
gonna
he's
be
a
good.
protege of yours, right? Yes. Books.
Angela Ellaby. Angela Ellaby is a public relations maven, maverick, a dude who's been doing this since the 80s. And I had the pleasure, he's been my mentor for all these umpteen decades. And I had the pleasure of working with him on his autobiography. Well, it wasn't really his autobiography. It's called Before I Let You Go. And he was really unpacking. He's really unpacking the lessons that he's taught in artist development and how they really apply to our everyday lives. And just the more he poured, the more I was like, "See, this is why this book is going to be a game changer for some people." Okay. Angelo Ellaby's Before I Let You Go. Okay. Coming sometime this summer.
Which brings me to, you guys follow Kevin E. Taylor on Instagram because he does a wonderful series called Before I Get Out the Car. And he pulls up, and every time before he gets out the car, he has a wonderful nugget to share with you that will make your day. He is bishoping in that car. So,
yeah.
So tune in on IG so that you get all of those nuggets that he shares before he gets out of his car. Kevin Taylor, this is my last question. We came through a culture of Miles Monroe writing In Pursuit of Purpose. We went to Purpose-Driven Life.
Yeah.
Where are we with regard to callings and purpose today?
I think if people would give themselves permission, where we are today is your capacity for audacity. I say it and it shifts people. I think they hear it and sometimes don't know what to do with it because they're so shaken by the audacity part that they don't speak to the capacity part. And sometimes in order to see how audacious you are forward, you got to see the capacity that kept you to get through what you came through, right? The example that you need that you can get through anything is everything you've already come through. And if we could understand our capacity for audacity, the fact that we are built and designed for greaterness. Because my sister Kia said that to me once. She said, "Baby, you think God is working on your greatness. God is working on your greaterness. You've been great." And when we can do that, it makes the mother start the business. It makes the child apply to the college that they're afraid they won't get into. It makes us do more. Because if you're not dead, God's not done. It's